Today, Donald Trump makes his first speech as US President-elect. Yoav Gallant is sacked as Israeli Defense Minister, and Netflix's offices in France and the Netherlands are raided. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Wednesday, the 6th of November, 2024. The US presidential election is over, and Donald Trump has won. The saying goes that one goes bankrupt slowly, then suddenly. And if that's the case, the campaign of Vice President Kamala Harris went broke last night. This has left the Democratic Party in stunned silence, and the Republicans have a good chance to control all three branches of government. Commentators across the political aisle are saying Donald Trump completed the best political comeback since Richard Nixon in 1968. And even then, there's a question of whether this is the greatest American political comeback of all time. While the votes trickled in rather slowly at first, Trump had early indications of success. Strong support in the states of Virginia and Florida indicated that Trump would go on to win the key southern swing states of Georgia and North Carolina. With those victories, all eyes turned to the infamous blue wall states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Throughout the night, Trump sustained a small but steady lead across the blue wall. This precarious situation for Harris prompted her campaign, headquartered at her alma mater, Howard University in DC, to announce the vice president would not be addressing the nation on the night of the election. Immediately, Democrats started to feel flashbacks to 2016, when Hillary Clinton refused to address supporters assembled at her watch party in New York. Not long after the Harris campaign announcement, the writing on the wall became apparent. Fox News was first to call the Pennsylvania election for Donald Trump. Then Wisconsin went the same way. At 1:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, November the 6th, Donald Trump was projected the winner with at least 277 electoral votes. Republicans also expected to make massive gains in the Senate, looking good in not just Ohio, Montana, and West Virginia, but Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Nevada. Though they might not win all four, just a couple of wins would give Republicans a robust Senate majority and likely dashing the chances of Democrats retaking the chamber in 2026. This would give Trump full Senate control during his term and give him full reign on cabinet, ambassadors, judges, and Supreme Court justices during his 4-year term. Soon after, Donald Trump made his way from his campaign headquarters at Mar-a-Lago and took the stage at his watch party in West Palm Beach, Florida, where he immediately declared victory in both the Electoral College and popular vote. Trump went on to call his 2024 candidacy the greatest political movement in all of history, but struck up a notably measured tone compared to his bombastic rally style. Trump ended up recounting the launch of SpaceX's latest reusable rocket system and thanking top golfers that endorsed him. So, as you can imagine, the victory speech was not the most focused affair. After a quick pep talk by UFC President Dana White, Trump took time to thank various minority groups that voted for him in greater numbers than in 2020. Then concluded by thanking God for saving him from his assassination attempt and thanking his supporters for the victory. The election is nothing short of historic. Not only has Trump become the second president in history to win non-consecutive terms, but he's also changed voting trends that have held since President Obama's election. Specifically, Trump improved with Hispanic Americans, African Americans, and young voters across many states. Critically, Trump's re-election has dramatic ramifications for the Supreme Court, with the presidency and Senate in Republican hands. Conservative Supreme Court Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito are now free to retire, doing so without concern that their successors will change the balance of the Supreme Court. Almost assuredly, one of the court's most notable cases will be if President Trump can issue federal pardons for himself or otherwise direct the Department of Justice to cease prosecutions aimed at him. So clearly, these results have shocked American politics, and a lot of questions still remain. Not least of which, questions about who will staff a second Trump administration, and how this election will change how future campaigns are run. But we do know that this next administration will be nothing like what we've seen before in modern American politics. Before we move on, I just wanted to properly shout out our magazine, Too Long. Too Long is the high-quality physical magazine that we make every 4 months, and this time dives into every major election to take place in 2024, including, obviously, the US election. That means it'll contain our full analysis of the US election, what the winner, so Donald Trump, is likely to do next, and our review of the Biden administration. However, there's so much more than just the US election to talk about. With nearly half of the world's population able to vote in 2024, we dive into elections from all over the world, outlining how people voted, the impacts, and the real stories. That makes Too Long the ideal way to commemorate this iconic year of elections. Whether you're an American wanting a bit of electoral history, a European TLDR fan looking to dive deeper into the elections across the continent we've been discussing all year, or you're just curious about the elections you might have missed, now's the time to buy. If you really want to support our free journalism, you can also buy the premium edition that not only includes the magazine, but also gets you access to our behind the scenes podcast and gets your name printed in the thank you section. You can also subscribe to make sure you never miss an issue, which not only helps us a lot, but also gets you 25% off every copy going forward. So commemorate this massive election, support our journalism, and experience our very best reporting with Too Long. Plus, if you use code 2DAILY, you'll not only get £2 off any purchase, we'll also know that you came from the Daily Briefing, which supports the show. Moving to Israel now, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has fired the Defense Secretary, with him citing a breakdown in trust with Yoav Gallant. Netanyahu went on to explain that, at the height of a war, complete trust is needed between the Prime Minister and the Defence Minister. Now, Netanyahu has been at odds with Gallant ever since the coalition entered office in 2022, as Gallant was the only senior figure to oppose the government's plans for judicial reform, which was seen by some as an example of Israeli democratic backsliding. Then, throughout the war in Gaza, there have been frequent disagreements about exactly how Israel should prosecute the war. The most recent of these, and the one that seems to have prompted the decision to sack Gallant, was over whether the ultra-Orthodox community should also be subject to conscription. While Gallant supported the move, 2 ultra-Orthodox parties in the Knesset, who are key Netanyahu allies, opposed it. As a result, Gallant is now out of government, and Israel Katz, previously the foreign minister, is expected to replace him. Speaking about his new appointment, Katz posted on X, formerly Twitter, that "We will work together to march the security system to victory against our enemies and to achieve the goals of the war. The return of all of the abductees as the most important value mission, the destruction of Hamas in Gaza, the defeat of Hezbollah in Lebanon, the containment of Iranian aggression, and the return of the residents of the north and south to their homes in safety." Moving to the world of tech news now, where the offices of Netflix in both Paris and Amsterdam were raided. The raid was as a result of an investigation into tax fraud and was conducted by both French and Dutch law enforcement. The case was originally opened in 2022, and while Netflix has so far refused to comment on the raid specifically, has insisted that it complies with tax laws in all countries in which it's based. Last year, the French media outlet Le Let reported that Netflix in France minimised its tax receipts by declaring turnover made in France in the Netherlands, with them reporting that such a practice had been going on for many months. They claim that the company abandoned the practice in 2021. At this point, declared turnover in France jumped from €47.1 million to €1.2 billion. Investigators, though, are still trying to determine whether Netflix continued to engage in this practice beyond 2021. And moving to Germany now, where police have arrested 8 suspected members of a far-right group who were reportedly planning to stage a Nazi-inspired coup. The group are known as the Saxony Separatists and were undergoing military training for the eventuality of the collapse of both government and society. They referred to this event as Day X. The group had planned to try and seize control of eastern Germany before then going on to create a far-right government inspired by National Socialism, which is an ideology linked to Adolf Hitler. In total, more than 450 officers have taken part in the operation, which saw searches and arrests take place across Germany, Austria, and Poland. In the final uplifting story today, we discuss Japanese shelf sharing. This is a new kind of bookshop in Japan where people are able to rent a shelf and sell their own items on them. Shogo Imamura opened his shop last April. Measuring in at just 53 square metres, the shop's home to 364 shelves, which can be rented for between 4,850 and 9,350 yen, or around $34 to about $64. Discussing his shop, Imamura explains, "Here you can find books which make you wonder who on earth would buy them, and that regular bookshops sell books that are popular based on sales statistics, while excluding books that don't sell well. We ignore such principles, or capitalism in other words."